The desperate signal. The emergency beacon cut through the cosmic void like a blade of pure desperation. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the holographic display flicker with alien symbols that the translation matrix was still struggling to decode. The message had been broadcasting on all frequencies for the past 18 hours, originating from the Kepler 442 system, nearly 47 light-years from Earth. "Ma'am, we're getting cleaner translation now," reported Lieutenant Hayes, his fingers dancing across the quantum interface. "The signal, it's definitely a distress call. Multiple species, it seems. They're calling for help against something they refer to as the Void Reapers." Chen's jaw tightened. The Void Reapers were more than just rumors in the galactic community. They were a nomadic swarm of biomechanical entities that consumed entire star systems, leaving nothing but empty space in their wake. Earth had only recently joined the galactic stage, barely 2 decades ago, when humanity's first faster-than-light vessels had encountered a trade convoy of peaceful aliens near Proxima Centauri. "How many ships are requesting assistance?" Chen asked, studying the tactical display. "Based on the signal patterns, we're looking at approximately 12 different species, Captain. The transmission includes coordinates for a massive refugee fleet. They're running from something big." The bridge fell silent except for the soft humming of the ship's fusion reactors. Chen had commanded the Defiance for 5 years, leading humanity's first deep space exploration missions. The ship was a marvel of human engineering, combining the best of Earth's military technology with newly acquired alien knowledge. Its hull was forged from metamaterials that could withstand direct hits from plasma cannons, while its quantum drives could push the vessel to speeds that made interstellar travel possible in weeks rather than centuries. "Commander Torres, what's our current fleet status?" Chen called to her second-in-command. Maria Torres, a veteran of the Mars colonial wars, pulled up the fleet roster. "We have the full 3rd Expeditionary Force at our disposal, Captain. 47 ships total, 12 heavy cruisers like the Defiance, 23 destroyers, 8 support vessels, and 4 dreadnoughts, including the Terra's Wrath." Chen nodded slowly. When humanity had first encountered alien civilizations, they had been shocked to discover that most species were surprisingly peaceful. Wars existed, certainly, but the kind of total warfare that had defined human history for millennia was considered barbaric by galactic standards. Humans were quickly labeled as Deathworlders, beings from a planet so hostile that it had forged them into incredibly resilient and aggressive creatures. At first, this designation had caused diplomatic problems. Many species feared humanity's potential for violence. But as the years passed, a grudging respect had developed. When pirates threatened trade routes, it was human ships that were called to patrol. When territorial disputes needed mediation, human negotiators often succeeded where others failed, simply because everyone knew the consequences of making humans truly angry. "Sir, we're receiving additional transmissions," Hayes announced. "It's not just a distress call. They're specifically requesting human intervention. The message says, 'Only the Deathworlders have ships that might stand against the darkness.'" Chen felt a chill run down her spine. For aliens to specifically call for human help meant the situation was far worse than a simple raid or territorial conflict. She had seen the aftermath of Void Reaper attacks in classified intelligence reports. Entire planets stripped of all organic matter, their atmospheres consumed, leaving only barren rocks orbiting dead stars. "Commander Torres, begin fleet mobilization protocols. Signal all ships to prepare for immediate departure to the Kepler 442 system." "Captain, shouldn't we contact Earth Command for authorization first?" Torres asked, though she was already moving to comply with the order. "Those people are dying right now," Chen replied firmly. "We're the only human fleet within range, and by the time we get approval from Earth, there might be nothing left to save. We'll send a message to command en route, but we're going now. The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as officers carried out their orders. Within minutes, the quantum communicators were blazing with encrypted signals as the entire 3rd Expeditionary Force received their mobilization orders. Chen watched through the main viewport as the sleek forms of human warships began to emerge from their patrol positions throughout the local system. The Terra's Wrath was the most impressive sight, a kilometer-long dreadnought bristling with railguns, plasma cannons, and missile tubes. Its captain, Admiral Rodriguez, had earned his reputation during the Centauri incident when a misunderstanding with an aggressive species had nearly sparked an interstellar war. Human diplomacy had failed, but human firepower had made the aliens reconsider their position very quickly. "Fleet reports ready for quantum jump, Captain," Torres announced. Chen activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. We have received a distress call from 12 different alien species requesting assistance against Void Reaper forces. This is not a drill. We are about to enter what may be the largest space battle in human history. Remember your training, trust your shipmates, and show the galaxy why they call us Deathworlders." The quantum drives of 47 human warships charged to full power simultaneously, creating a symphony of harmonious energy that resonated through local space. Chen felt the familiar sensation of reality bending around the ship as the Defiance prepared to tear a hole in space-time itself. "Jump in 3, 2, 1, mark!" The 3rd Expeditionary Force vanished from normal space in a blaze of exotic radiation, racing toward a distant star system where alien civilizations faced extinction. Behind them, automated systems dispatched a priority message to Earth. "Proceeding to assist alien refugee fleet under attack by Void Reapers. Will report status upon arrival. Humanity will not abandon those who call for help." In the depths of space, 47 human warships streaked through quantum foam toward their destiny. Each ship carried a crew trained from birth on a world where survival required constant struggle, where evolution had forged a species that viewed impossible odds not as defeat, but as a challenge to overcome. The Void Reapers were about to learn why every species in the galaxy had learned to respect, and sometimes fear, the Deathworlders from Sol 3. As the hours passed during their journey through quantum space, Chen found herself reviewing everything known about the Void Reapers. The intelligence was fragmentary at best. They appeared to be ancient, possibly older than most current galactic civilizations. Their technology was biomechanical, suggesting they had evolved beyond the traditional distinction between organic life and artificial intelligence. What made them truly terrifying was their hunger. They didn't simply conquer worlds, they consumed them entirely. Every trace of organic matter, from the smallest microbe to the largest forests, was processed into raw materials for their ever-growing swarm. Planets were stripped down to their metallic cores, which were then harvested to build new ships. "Captain, we're detecting quantum signatures ahead," Hayes reported. "Multiple large vessels, but they're not moving in any formation I recognize." "Put it on the main screen." The view screen shimmered to life, revealing a sight that made even seasoned space veterans pause. Hundreds of alien ships of wildly different designs were clustered around a small moon, their hulls scarred by weapons fire. Some vessels were clearly civilian, their bulbous forms designed for cargo and passengers rather than combat. Others showed the sleek lines of military craft, but many were missing pieces of hull plating or trailing debris clouds. Among them were species Chen had never seen before, crystalline beings whose ships seemed to be grown rather than built, energy-based life forms that existed within specialized containment vessels, and massive creatures that appeared to be living ships themselves. The diversity was staggering, representing thousands of years of evolution across dozens of worlds. "My God," Torres whispered. "How many refugees are there?" Preliminary scans suggest approximately 2 million individuals across 300 ships, Hayes replied. Captain, we're receiving multiple communication attempts. They're cheering. Word of our arrival is spreading through the fleet. Chen felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. 2 million lives depending on 47 human ships to stand between them and extinction. She activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Rodriguez aboard the Terra's Wrath. I'm taking command of this operation. Captain Chen, excellent work getting us here so quickly. All vessels, assume defensive positions around the refugee fleet. Begin immediate evacuation protocols for any ships too damaged to maintain life support. The human fleet spread out with practiced precision, each ship taking position to create an overlapping defensive perimeter. Chen watched with pride as her fellow captains maneuvered their vessels with the skill that had made human pilots legendary throughout the galaxy. Where most species required extensive computer assistance for complex maneuvers, humans seemed to possess an intuitive understanding of three-dimensional space that allowed them to pilot their ships as extensions of their own bodies. Captain, we're getting reports from the outer sensor grid, Hayes announced, his voice tight with tension. Something big is coming. Multiple large signatures moving fast. Chen's blood went cold as the long-range sensors began painting targets on the tactical display. What approached was not a fleet in any conventional sense. It was a living nightmare of organic curves and metallic spines, ships that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns and trailed streams of digestive enzymes. The Void Reapers moved with the fluid grace of deep-sea predators, their formations shifting and flowing like schools of alien fish. Count? Chen asked. Over 200 confirmed contacts, with more appearing at the edge of sensor range. Captain, some of these things are massive. The largest ones are showing as nearly 3 kilometers long. Chen felt her heart race with anticipation rather than fear. This was what humans had trained for their entire species' history. Every war, every conflict, every struggle for survival had prepared them for this moment. Where other species might see overwhelming odds, humans saw a target-rich environment. All ships, weapons free, Admiral Rodriguez's voice crackled over the communication system. Remember, these things want to consume everything. We're all that stands between them and 2 million innocent lives. Make every shot count and show them why the galaxy calls us Deathworlders. The human fleet powered up their weapons systems, charging railguns and priming missile tubes. 47 ships against over 200, defending a refugee fleet that couldn't fight back. By any rational calculation, it should have been a hopeless battle. But the Void Reapers had never faced Deathworlders before. When Deathworlders fight, the first Void Reaper ship to enter engagement range was a grotesque fusion of living tissue and dark metal, its hull rippling with what appeared to be breathing motions. Bioluminescent veins pulsed along its surface, feeding energy to weapon systems that defied conventional understanding. When it fired, streams of corrosive plasma erupted from organic cannons that opened like massive mouths along its flanks. Captain Chen watched the tactical display with cold focus as the enemy salvo approached her ship. Evasive maneuvers, pattern Delta 7. Return fire with all forward batteries. The Defiance rolled and twisted through space with an agility that would have been impossible for most alien vessels. Human ships were designed by a species that had evolved in three-dimensional environments, learning to think in terms of aerial combat and underwater maneuvering. The Void Reaper plasma streams passed harmlessly through the space where the ship had been milliseconds before. The human response was immediate and devastating. Railguns fired streams of hypervelocity projectiles that struck the alien ship with the force of small asteroids. Unlike the energy weapons favored by most galactic civilizations, human kinetic weapons were brutally simple and incredibly effective. The metal slugs tore through the Void Reaper's bio-armor like paper, punching deep into its organic hull. The alien ship writhed in what might have been pain, its bioluminescent patterns shifting to angry reds and oranges. Dark fluids leaked from the puncture wounds, freezing instantly in the vacuum of space. But the creature was far from dead. Dozens of smaller organisms detached from its hull, swarming toward the human ship like antibodies responding to an infection. "Defensive fire? All-point defense systems," Chen ordered. "Don't let those things get close." The Defiance's automated defense grid came online, hundreds of small laser cannons tracking and destroying the approaching organisms with mechanical precision. Each burst of coherent light vaporized one of the attackers, but more kept coming. Chen realized with growing alarm that this was just a single Void Reaper ship, and there were hundreds more approaching. Across the battle space, the other human vessels were engaging with similar ferocity. The Destroyer. New Tokyo danced between two massive Void Reapers, its crew using the ship's superior maneuverability to stay in their blind spots while raking their hulls with plasma fire. The heavy cruiser, Moscow's Pride, had locked onto one of the largest alien vessels and was pounding it with everything in its arsenal, turning sections of bioarmor into floating debris. But it was the dreadnought, Terra's Wrath, that truly demonstrated human military doctrine. Instead of trying to outmaneuver the Void Reapers, Admiral Rodriguez had ordered his massive ship to charge straight into the center of the alien formation. The dreadnought's heavy armor absorbed punishment that would have crippled smaller vessels while its main guns spoke with the voice of thunder. "This is Admiral Rodriguez to all ships," the communication system crackled. "These things fight like pack hunters, trying to isolate and overwhelm individual targets. Stay close, maintain overlapping fields of fire, and remember your training. We've faced worse odds before." Chen found herself smiling grimly at the Admiral's words. It was true, in a way. Humanity had faced extinction dozens of times throughout its history. Ice ages, supervolcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, plagues, and wars had all tried to wipe out the human species. Each time, they had not only survived but emerged stronger. This was just another extinction event, except this time humans weren't the ones facing it. The battle began to develop a rhythm as both sides adapted to their opponent's tactics. The Void Reapers were clearly intelligent, perhaps possessing a collective consciousness that allowed them to coordinate their attacks with frightening efficiency. They began focusing their fire on individual human ships, trying to overwhelm their defenses through concentrated assault. But human tactical doctrine had evolved through millennia of warfare against intelligent opponents. Each ship captain anticipated these focused attacks and called for support from nearby vessels. When three Void Reapers converged on the destroyer Bangalore, the nearby cruisers, Berlin and São Paulo, immediately shifted position to provide covering fire, creating a deadly crossfire that caught the aliens in a kill zone. The alien refugees watched in amazement as the human fleet moved with coordination that seemed almost telepathic. Unknown to them, each human ship was connected through quantum communication systems that allowed near-instantaneous tactical updates. Combined with human intuition and aggression, this created a fighting force that was greater than the sum of its parts. "Captain, I'm detecting something strange," Lieutenant Hayes reported. "The Void Reapers aren't just trying to destroy us, they're studying us. Several ships are hanging back, observing our combat patterns." Chen felt a chill of realization. These creatures weren't just mindless predators. They were learning, adapting, preparing to counter human tactics. She opened a channel to the fleet command frequency. "All ships, be advised that enemy forces are conducting tactical analysis. Recommend implementing chaos protocols to prevent pattern recognition." The response was immediate. Human captains began employing random tactical variations, breaking formation at unexpected moments, and using non-standard attack patterns that would be impossible for most alien crews to execute. The Defiance suddenly accelerated directly toward a cluster of Void Reapers, then rolled inverted and fired its engines in reverse, creating an attack vector that no sane alien would attempt. The maneuver caught the Void Reapers completely off guard. Chen's ship passed within meters of one alien vessel's hull, close enough that she could see the organic details of its structure through the viewports. The ship's entire weapons array fired at point-blank range, tearing massive chunks from the alien vessel's side. But the victory was short-lived. As the battle continued, it became clear that the human fleet was slowly being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Despite their tactical superiority, 47 ships could only do so much against an enemy force 5 times their size. Several human vessels were showing serious damage, their hulls breached in multiple locations. The destroyer Canberra had lost half its weapon systems and was leaking atmosphere from a massive gash in its port side. The cruiser Mumbai was down to emergency power after a Void Reaper's bioelectric attack had overloaded its main reactor. Even the mighty Terra's Wrath was beginning to show wear, its armor scarred by countless impacts. "Captain," Torres said quietly, "at our current rate of engagement, we'll be overwhelmed within the hour. The refugee fleet can't jump to FTL with this many damaged ships, and we can't protect them all." Chen stared at the tactical display, watching red icons representing enemy ships continue to multiply at the edge of sensor range. More Void Reapers were arriving constantly, drawn by the battle like scavengers to a feeding frenzy. She found herself facing the kind of impossible decision that had defined human history. Sacrifice the few to save the many, or find a way to save everyone against impossible odds. "Hayes, what's the status on those observing ships, the ones hanging back from the main battle?" "Still there, Captain. They appear to be some kind of command variant, larger and more heavily armored than the frontline units. They're staying at the maximum range of our sensors. Just watching." Chen felt an idea begin to form. It was insane, suicidal, and completely contrary to standard tactical doctrine. In other words, it was perfectly human. "All ships, this is Captain Chen of the Defiance. I'm detecting what appear to be command units at the rear of the enemy formation. If we can eliminate their leadership, we might disrupt their coordination long enough for the refugees to escape." "Negative, Captain." Admiral Rodriguez's voice cut through the communication channel. "Those ships are protected by the entire enemy fleet. It would be suicide." "Sir, with respect, suicide missions are a human specialty," Chen replied. "Request permission to take a strike force through enemy lines to engage the command ships." There was a long pause on the communication channel. In the background, Chen could hear the sounds of battle from the Admiral's ship, alarms blaring, crew members shouting orders, the deep thrumming of weapons fire. Finally, Rodriguez's voice returned, heavy with the weight of command. "Permission granted, Captain. Take the Defiance, Moscow's Pride, New Tokyo, and Bangalore. The rest of the fleet will create a distraction. Godspeed and give them hell." Chen felt a surge of adrenaline as she realized what they were about to attempt. 4 ships against an entire fleet, racing through the heart of enemy formation to reach targets that were probably the most heavily defended vessels in the Void Reaper swarm. It was the kind of mission that military historians would either call brilliant or completely insane, depending on whether it succeeded. "All hands, this is the captain," Chen announced over the ship's internal communication system. "We're about to attempt something that's never been tried before. We're going to punch through the center of the enemy fleet and take out their command ships. I won't lie to you, our chances of survival are minimal. But if we succeed, we might save 2 million lives." She paused, looking around the bridge at her crew. These were people she had served with for years, men and women who had volunteered for the most dangerous missions in human space. They looked back at her with the same expression she had seen on human faces throughout history. Grim determination mixed with the kind of reckless courage that had carried their species from caves to the stars. "Anyone who wants to transfer to a escape pod can do so now, no questions asked," Chen continued. But for those who stay, remember that we're not just fighting for those refugees out there. We're fighting for the right of every living being in this galaxy to exist without fear. We're fighting to show the universe that some things are worth dying for." Not a single crew member moved toward the escape pods. Chen smiled as she settled back into her command chair. "Helm, plot an intercept course for the enemy command ships. All stations report ready for combat acceleration." The four-ship strike force began to accelerate toward the heart of the Void Reaper fleet, leaving the safety of the main defensive formation behind. As they approached the enemy lines, Chen could see the alien ships beginning to shift position, moving to intercept the human vessels. What the Void Reapers didn't understand was that they were about to face something that had never existed in their long history of conquest, a species that had evolved not just to survive, but to fight back against impossible odds. A species that viewed certain death not as a reason to surrender, but as a reason to fight even harder. The Deathworlders were coming, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The price of salvation. The four human ships raced through space in perfect formation, weaving between Void Reaper vessels with a precision that defied comprehension. Captain Chen watched her tactical display with intense focus as hostile contacts multiplied around them, each red icon representing a ship that could destroy the Defiance if given the chance. The Void Reapers seemed confused by the human tactics. Their previous prey had always been prey, fleeing, hiding, trying to escape rather than fighting. The concept of a smaller force deliberately attacking a larger one appeared to be beyond their understanding. This confusion bought the strike force precious seconds as they penetrated deeper into the enemy formation. "Contact bearing 27 Mark III, Lieutenant Hayes called out. "Massive biosignature, different from the others. That has to be one of the command ships." Chen looked at the main viewer and felt her breath catch. The Void Reaper command vessel was unlike anything in human experience. Nearly 2 kilometers long, it resembled a gigantic sea creature more than a starship. Tentacle-like appendages trailed from its hull, each one crackling with bioelectric energy. Its surface was covered in what looked like eyes, thousands of them, all different sizes, all tracking the approaching human ships with alien intelligence. "Range to target, 15,000 kilometers and closing," the helmsman reported. "We're starting to take fire from escort vessels." The space around the strike force erupted in deadly light as dozens of Void Reaper ships opened fire simultaneously. The smaller human vessels rolled and twisted through the barrage, their pilots pushing their ships to the limits of structural integrity. Chen felt the Defiance shudder as a near miss sent shockwaves through the hull. "Return fire! All weapons! Target their escort ships!" Chen ordered. "We need to clear a path to that command vessel." The human ships responded with devastating efficiency. Railguns spoke with thunder, sending streams of hypervelocity projectiles into the alien formation. Plasma cannons carved burning tracks through Void Reaper hulls. Missile systems launched waves of smart projectiles that sought out vulnerable points in enemy armor. The Destroyer. New Tokyo demonstrated the kind of precision flying that had made human pilots legendary. Commander Yuki Tanaka rolled her ship between two massive Void Reapers, using their own bulk to shield her from other attackers while her weapons teams systematically destroyed their weapon systems. The alien ships writhed in apparent agony as their biomechanical systems were methodically dismantled. But the escort ships were just the beginning. As the human formation closed on the command vessel, the massive creature began to respond to their approach. The thousands of eyes on its hull focused on the approaching ships, and Chen realized with growing horror that each eye was actually a weapon system. "Evasive action!" she shouted, but it was too late. The command ship fired, and space itself seemed to tear apart. Instead of conventional energy weapons, the alien vessel projected beams of pure entropy, destructive forces that unraveled matter at the molecular level. One beam caught the heavy cruiser. Moscow's pride in its port nacelle, and Chen watched in shock as a section of the ship's hull simply ceased to exist. Moscow's pride reports heavy damage, Hayes announced. They're losing structural integrity, but they're still in the fight. Captain Volkov's voice crackled through the communication system, thick with determination despite his ship's mortal wounds. This is Moscow's pride. We're hurt but not dead, continuing attack run. The damaged cruiser continued its charge toward the command vessel, trailing debris and atmosphere, but still firing everything it had. Chen felt a surge of pride in her fellow captain's courage. This was what it meant to be human, to keep fighting even when victory seemed impossible. The destroyer Bangalore had managed to get within point-blank range of one of the command ship's weapon clusters. Commander Singh ordered his ship to fire everything at once, emptying his entire arsenal into the alien creature's hide. The explosion was visible even at their distance, tearing a massive wound in the command vessel's flank. But the alien retaliation was swift and terrible. Tentacle appendages lashed out with incredible speed, wrapping around the small destroyer like the arms of a giant squid. Chen watched helplessly as the organic cables began to squeeze, crushing the Bangalore's hull like an empty can. "Singh, eject your crew!" Chen called over the radio. "Get out of there!" "Negative, Captain," came the reply. "We're not done yet." To Chen's amazement, the Bangalore fired its engines at maximum power while still trapped in the command ship's grasp. The destroyer's fusion rockets burned directly into the alien creature's hull, boring deep into its organic structure. The tentacles released the human ship, but it was too late for both vessels. The Bangalore was a broken wreck, and the command ship was hemorrhaging fluids and energy. "All ships, concentrate fire on the wounded command vessel," Chen ordered. "Make Singh's sacrifice count." The remaining 3 human ships poured everything they had into the dying alien creature. Railgun rounds punched through its weakened armor, plasma beams carved burning channels through its flesh, and missiles exploded deep within its organic structure. The command ship's death throes were spectacular, bioluminescent patterns racing across its hull in what might have been pain or rage. When the massive creature finally died, the effect on the rest of the Void Reaper fleet was immediate and dramatic. Ships that had been moving in coordinated formations suddenly began operating independently, their tactics becoming disorganized and predictable. The collective intelligence that had coordinated their attacks was broken. "Captain, we're detecting massive confusion in the enemy fleet," Hayes reported with excitement. They're retreating!" Chen couldn't believe what she was seeing. Across the entire battle space, Void Reaper ships were breaking off their attacks and fleeing toward the edge of the system. Some were even firing on each other, as if different factions within the swarm were competing for control. "This is Admiral Rodriguez to all ships," the communication system crackled. "Pursue and destroy retreating enemies. Do not let them regroup." The remaining human fleet surged forward in pursuit, their damaged ships finding new energy in the prospect of victory. The aliens who had seemed so terrifying just hours before were now fleeing in panic, their bioships streaming through space like a school of frightened fish. But the cost of victory was becoming clear. The strike force had been devastated. The Bangalore was gone with all hands, Commander Singh and his crew joining the ranks of human heroes who had died to save others. The Moscow's Pride was barely operational, held together by emergency force fields and the determination of her crew. Chen's own ship had taken significant damage as well. Half of their weapon systems were offline, and they were venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. But they were alive, and they had won. "Captain," Torres said quietly, "we're receiving transmissions from the refugee fleet. They're thanking us." Chen activated the main communication system and was immediately overwhelmed by dozens of alien voices speaking in languages she couldn't understand. But she didn't need translation to comprehend the emotion in those voices: gratitude, relief, and something that might have been awe. One transmission came through in accented but clear human English. "This is High Coordinator Zenth of the Crystalline Collective, speaking for the Refugee Alliance. We cannot find words sufficient to express our debt to your species. You came when we called for help, knowing you might die in our defense. This is a nobility we had not believed possible." Chen felt tears forming in her eyes as she responded. "High Coordinator, this is Captain Chen of the Earthship Defiance. We came because you asked for help and because no one should face extinction alone. That's what it means to be human." Over the following hours, the human fleet worked alongside the alien refugees to tend their wounded and repair damaged ships. The diversity of species was staggering. Beings of crystal and energy, creatures that breathed methane instead of oxygen, sentient plants that communicated through chemical signals. Each had their own story of loss and survival, their own worlds consumed by the Void Reapers. But they all shared one thing. They were alive because 47 human ships had answered their call for help. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the Defiance's chief medical officer, found herself treating patients unlike anything in human experience. Working alongside alien medics, she learned new techniques and shared human medical knowledge. The cultural exchange was happening even in the midst of emergency care. "Captain," Hayes called from his station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." Admiral Harrison's face appeared on the main screen, his expression grave. "Captain Chen, Admiral Rodriguez, congratulations on your victory. However, I have disturbing news. Long-range sensors have detected additional Void Reaper swarms moving toward Earth space. This attack was just the beginning." Chen felt her heart sink. They had won one battle, but the war was far from over. The Void Reapers had tested human defenses and found them formidable, but they were learning, adapting, preparing for their next assault. "Sir, what are our orders?" she asked. "Return to Earth space immediately," Harrison replied. "We're mobilizing every ship we have. The refugees are welcome to accompany you. We'll find them sanctuary on human worlds while we prepare for the next attack." As the mixed fleet of human warships and alien refugees began their journey toward Earth, Chen found herself looking out at the stars with new understanding. Humanity had always been alone in the universe, fighting for survival on a hostile world. Now they had allies, people who depended on human protection and strength. The galaxy had called for help, and the Deathworlders had answered with an entire armada. But more importantly, they had answered with something the universe had rarely seen: the willingness to die for strangers, to fight impossible odds for no reward, except the knowledge that it was right. High Coordinator Zenth's final transmission summed up what many species were beginning to understand. "We called out in desperation, expecting nothing. But the humans came, and they showed us what courage truly means. Perhaps there is hope for this galaxy after all." As the fleet jumped to FTL, racing toward Earth and the next battle, Chen smiled grimly. The Void Reapers were coming, but they would face a united front. Humans and aliens, working together, fighting together, dying together if necessary. The age of human isolation was over. The age of galactic unity had begun, forged in the crucible of battle and sealed with the blood of heroes. Whatever came next, the galaxy would face it together, with Deathworlders leading the charge.